a man whose silence was louder than a scream. But on a rainy Tuesday night, one phone call brought him to his knees. It wasn't a rival gang. It wasn't the FBI. It was his maid, sobbing into the receiver. "Mr. Lakota, please, you have to come home. She's destroying her." Lakota drove 120 miles per hour through the city streets, his heart pounding for the first time in years. He thought he was prepared for anything, but when he kicked down the doors of his own mansion, what he saw didn't just break his heart. It froze his soul, and the person holding the knife, it was the one woman he never thought would betray him. Stay tuned. This is the story of how a billionaire mafia boss learned that the most dangerous enemy is the one sleeping under your own roof. The glass of the penthouse office on 57th Street vibrated slightly against the storm battering New York City, but inside, the air was dead silent. Lakota Cavallaro stood by the window, staring down at the ants scurrying below. At 32, Lakota wasn't just a businessman. He was the capo dei capi of the East Coast, the head of the Cavallaro crime family. He wore a bespoke charcoal suit that cost more than most people's cars, tailored to fit broad shoulders that carried the weight of an empire. His eyes were the color of steel, and usually just as cold. "Sir," his second-in-command, a scarred man named Luca, stepped forward. "The shipment from the docks is secured. The Russians backed off." Lakota nodded, not turning around. "Good. And the house? Is everything quiet?" Luca hesitated. That hesitation was rare. "The guards reported that your mother arrived this morning. She's settling in." Lakota's jaw tightened. Beatrice Cavallaro, the Iron Matriarch. She had been vacationing in Sicily for 3 years, a polite exile Lakota had enforced after she tried to arrange a marriage for him with a rival family's daughter. He hadn't invited her back. "And Layla?" Lakota asked, his voice dropping an octave. "Mrs. Cavallaro is in the East Wing, sir. She hasn't left her room since breakfast." Layla. Just saying her name made a crack in Lakota's ice-cold armor. Layla Moore. She wasn't mob royalty. She was a florist, the daughter of a gambler who had owed the Cavalleros a fortune. Lakota had taken the debt, and in exchange, he had taken her. It was supposed to be a transaction, a contract marriage to save her father's life, but Lakota had made a fatal error. He had fallen in love with his hostage. He loved her softness, her defiance, the way she smelled like vanilla and rain. But he knew the rules of his world. Love is a weakness. If his enemies knew he cared, they would use her against him. So he wore a mask. He treated her with cold indifference, bought her expensive jewelry she never wore, and slept in the guest room when the nights got too dangerous. He thought he was protecting her. He didn't know he was killing her slowly. "Tell the guards to keep an eye on my mother," Lakota said, finally turning away from the window. "If she so much as looks at Layla wrong, I want to know." "Understood, boss." Lakota checked his Rolex. 8 p.m. He should go home. He wanted to go home. But the image of Layla's sad, brown eyes that used to sparkle but now looked at him with fear, stopped him. He poured himself a whiskey instead. "I'll stay here tonight," he lied to himself. "It's safer for her if I'm not there." He had no idea that safety was already an illusion. The danger wasn't waiting outside the gates. It was sitting at his dining table, sipping tea. 5 miles away, in the sprawling Cavallaro estate in the Hamptons, the atmosphere was suffocating. Layla sat at the long mahogany dining table, her hands trembling in her lap. She was 24, with wavy chestnut hair and eyes that held a permanent shadow of exhaustion. She wore a simple cream dress, trying to make herself as invisible as possible. Across from her sat Beatrice Cavallaro. Beatrice was 60, but she looked 40. Her skin was pulled tight, her hair dyed a jet black, and her fingers were adorned with rubies that looked like drops of blood. She cut into a steak with surgical precision, the knife screeching against the fine china. "So," Beatrice said, not looking up, "you haven't produced an heir yet." Layla flinched. "Lakota and we are taking our time." "Time?" Beatrice laughed, a harsh, dry sound. "You have been married for 2 years. In our world, a wife has 2 duties: be loyal and produce sons. You have done neither." "I am loyal," Layla whispered, her voice shaking. Beatrice finally looked up. Her eyes were black pits. "Are you? Or are you just a gold-digging florist waiting for my son to catch a bullet so you can inherit the empire?" "I never wanted his money," Layla snapped, a spark of her old fire returning. "I wanted my father to live. Lakota is the one who insisted on this marriage." "Don't speak his name," Beatrice hissed, slamming her fork down. The sound echoed in the cavernous room. "You are a stain on this family, Layla. You are weak, you are common, and you are making my son weak. I see the way he looks at you. He is distracted, and a distracted Don is a dead Don." Layla pushed her chair back, her appetite gone. "I'm not hungry. I'm going to my room." "Sit down," Beatrice commanded. Layla froze. "I said, sit down." Beatrice took a sip of her wine. "You see, Layla, I'm back for a reason. I'm here to clean house. Lakota is too soft to do what needs to be done. He keeps you around like a stray puppy. But puppies grow up. They make messes. They bite." "I am his wife," Layla said, gripping the edge of the table. "You are a liability," Beatrice corrected, "and liabilities get liquidated." From the corner of the room, Rosie, the head maid, watched with wide eyes. Rosie had been with the family for 20 years. She loved Lakota like a son, and she had grown to love Layla, who treated the staff with kindness, unlike any other caballero. Rosie saw the look in Beatrice's eyes. She knew that look. It was the same look Beatrice had 20 years ago, right before Lakota's father accidentally fell off his yacht. Later that night, Layla locked herself in the master bedroom, the room Lakota never slept in. She curled up on the massive bed, clutching a pillow that smelled faintly of his cologne. She felt sick, nauseous. She walked to the bathroom and splashed water on her face. Then she looked at the small plastic stick hidden at the bottom of her makeup bag. 2 pink lines. She was pregnant. Panic surged through her. If Beatrice knew. If Lakota knew. Lakota barely looked at her. He was always working, always cold. Would he think she trapped him? And Beatrice? Beatrice would see a baby as a threat to her control, or worse, she would take the child and raise it to be a monster like her. "I have to leave," Layla whispered to the mirror. "I have to get out of here before they find out." But as she stepped out of the bathroom, the door to the bedroom creaked open. It wasn't Lakota. It was Beatrice, holding a master key. Behind her stood 2 large men Layla didn't recognize, new guards Beatrice had brought from Sicily. "Going somewhere, dear?" Beatrice smiled. It was the smile of a predator cornering a wounded deer. "We need to have a little chat about your future." The next 3 days were a blur of psychological torture. Lakota didn't come home. He was embroiled in a territory war in New Jersey, a crisis conveniently escalated by anonymous tips that were actually leaked by Beatrice's contacts. She needed Lakota away. She needed time to break Layla. Beatrice didn't use physical violence at first. She was too smart for that. Bruises leave evidence. Instead, she used isolation. She confiscated Layla's phone. She cut the internet line to the house. She fired the guards loyal to Lakota and replaced them with her own mercenaries. Layla was a prisoner in her own home. "You're going to sign these," Beatrice said on the second day, sliding a stack of papers across the coffee table in the solarium. Layla looked at them. "Divorce papers." "I won't sign," Layla said, her voice hoarse. "Lakota wouldn't want this." "Lakota sent them," Beatrice lied smoothly. "I don't believe you." "Oh? Then why isn't he here?" Beatrice stood up, walking around the sofa to stand behind Layla. She placed her hands on Layla's shoulders, her grip painfully tight. "He's with her now. Isabella, the woman he should have married. She's Italian. She understands our world. She's not a shop girl." "You're lying," Layla sobbed. Am I? Beatrice pulled a phone from her pocket and played a recording. It was Lakota's voice. I'm tired of her, Luca. She's a burden. I just don't know how to get rid of her without looking like a monster. Layla's world shattered. The voice was Lakota's. The coldness was Lakota's. She didn't know that Beatrice had used AI software to splice the audio from old business meetings. To Layla, it sounded like the truth she had feared for 2 years. He hates me, Layla whispered, tears streaming down her face. He pities you, Beatrice corrected. But I don't. Sign the papers, Layla. Take the settlement check. Go back to your flowers. If you do, you live. If you don't. Beatrice trailed off, looking pointedly at Layla's stomach. Layla froze. She knows. You seem sickly lately, Beatrice whispered, leaning down to Layla's ear. Nauseous. Tired. If you are pregnant with a bastard child, Layla, I will make sure it never takes a breath. Layla protected her stomach instinctively. It's Lakota's. Prove it, Beatrice sneered. Sign the papers. Leave tonight, or I will have the doctor come, and we will remove the problem. Layla grabbed the pen. Her hand shook violently. She had to save the baby. If leaving Lakota meant saving their child, she would do it. Good girl, Beatrice purred. But just as the pen touched the paper, a crash echoed from the kitchen. Rosie, the maid, had dropped a tray of tea. She was standing in the doorway, her face pale. She had heard everything. Clean that up, you clumsy fool, Beatrice barked. Rosie hurried to pick up the shards, but as she passed Layla, she slipped a tiny piece of folded paper into Layla's palm. Layla waited until Beatrice turned away to look at it. It was a note scrawled on a napkin. Don't sign. He loves you. I'm calling him. Hope, fragile and terrifying, bloomed in Layla's chest. She dropped the pen. No, Layla said, standing up. Beatrice turned slowly. Excuse me? I said no, I'm not signing, and I'm not leaving. If Lakota wants me gone, he can tell me to my face. Beatrice's face contorted into a mask of pure rage. The veneer of civilization vanished. You stupid little girl, she snapped her fingers. The 2 large guards stepped forward. Take her to the basement, Beatrice ordered, and bring me the painting. Layla's eyes widened. No, not the painting. It was the only thing she had left of her father, a portrait he had painted of her mother. Lakota had saved it from the auction house when her father's assets were seized. It was the one sign that maybe, just maybe, he cared. If you won't sign, Beatrice said, picking up a heavy brass fire poker, I will destroy everything you love until you do, starting with your past and ending with your future. New Jersey. An abandoned warehouse by the docks. Lakota was in the middle of a negotiation with the Albanian mob. Tensions were high. Guns were on the table. We want 20% of the port, the Albanian leader spat. You'll get 5%, and you'll say thank you, Lakota said calmly, though his mind was elsewhere. He had a bad feeling, a knot in his stomach that wouldn't go away. He hadn't heard from the house in 2 days. Luca said the lines were down due to the storm, but Lakota knew the generator should have kicked in. Suddenly, his personal cell phone buzzed. Not the business phone, the private one. Only 3 people had this number, Luca, Layla, and the house landline. He held up a hand. The Albanians froze. Lakota pulled the phone out. Unknown number, he answered. Speak. Mr. Lakota. It was Rosie. She was whispering, her breath hitching. Mr. Lakota, please, you have to come home. She's destroying her. Lakota stood up, knocking his chair over. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Who is hurting her? Your mother, Rosie sobbed. She has her in the basement. She's... Oh God, she's burning the paintings. She's got the guards. Layla is screaming, sir. She's screaming your name. A sound came from Lakota's throat. A growl so primal that even the hardened Albanian gangsters took a step back. I'm coming, Lakota said. His voice was deathly quiet. He hung up. Luca, he roared. The helicopter, now. "Boss, the storm! I said now!" Lakota pulled his gun, not on his men, but at the sky. "If that chopper doesn't fly, I will fly it myself." He turned to the Albanians. "Deal's off! Get out of my city!" He didn't wait for a response. He ran. He ran out of the warehouse into the pouring rain, his expensive suit instantly soaked. Layla. The image of her smile, her gentle hands, her sadness, it all flashed before him. He had been a fool. He thought staying away protected her. He thought his mother was just a nuisance. He had left his lamb in the den of a wolf. "Faster!" he yelled as they boarded the black helicopter. As the chopper lifted off, fighting the gale force winds, Lakota looked out at the dark city. He made a vow then. If Beatrice had touched a hair on Layla's head, the fact that she was his mother wouldn't save her. He wasn't the Don tonight. He wasn't a businessman. He was a husband, and he was coming for blood. Underscore, 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 underscore. The basement of the Cavallaro estate was not a dark, cobweb-filled dungeon. It was a climate-controlled wine cellar lined with bottles worth more than most houses. But tonight, it smelled of smoke and fear. Layla was thrown to the stone floor by one of the guards. She gasped, her hands instinctively wrapping around her midsection to cushion the fall, protecting the secret life growing inside her. "Please," Layla begged, looking up at Beatrice. "You don't have to do this. I'll sign. I'll leave. Just let me go." Beatrice stood over her, the brass fire poker in one hand and the painting of Layla's mother in the other. The frame was already cracked. "You'll sign," Beatrice said, her voice eerily calm. "But first, you need to understand your place. You thought you could walk into this family and change us. You thought you could soften my son?" Beatrice threw the painting onto the floor. With a sneer, she brought the heavy brass poker down onto the canvas. Crunch. "No, Ton!" Layla screamed, crawling forward. Beatrice hit it again, and again. The face of Layla's mother, painted with such love by her father, was torn to shreds. "This is what happens to weak things in our world," Beatrice said, breathing hard. "They get destroyed." "You're a monster," Layla spat, tears blurring her vision. "Lakota is nothing like you. He has a heart. You have a stone where yours should be." Beatrice's eyes narrowed. She signaled to the guard. "Hold her!" The guard, a brute named Marco, grabbed Layla by her hair and yanked her head back. Layla cried out in pain, her neck exposed. "Lakota is my creation," Beatrice hissed, leaning down so her face was inches from Layla's. "I made him strong. I made him cold. And you are thawing him out. I won't allow it." She looked down at Layla's stomach again. A cruel realization dawned on her face. Beatrice reached out and poked Layla's belly with the tip of the poker. It wasn't hot yet, but the metal was hard and unforgiving. "You're protecting this area," Beatrice observed. "Why?" Layla went pale. She shook her head frantically. "No, nothing." Beatrice laughed. It was a sound that chilled the blood. "Oh, you poor, stupid girl. You actually thought you could hide an heir from me. A half-blood heir? A child born of a cavallaro and a florist." Layla struggled against Marco's grip. "Don't touch my baby. If you hurt him, Lakota will kill you." "Lakota won't know," Beatrice said, standing up straight. She walked over to a small gas burner used for preparing brandy. She turned the flame on. It roared to life, blue and angry. She placed the tip of the brass poker into the flame. "We're going to have an accident, Layla," Beatrice said casually, watching the metal begin to change color. "A tragic fall down the stairs. You were clumsy. You tripped. You lost the baby. And in your grief, you took your own life." "Rosie knows," Layla screamed. "Rosie called him." "Rosie?" Beatrice smirked. "Rosie has been dealt with." Upstairs, a single gunshot echoed through the floorboards. Layla's scream died in her throat. The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. Now, Beatrice pulled the poker from the flame. The tip was glowing a dull, menacing orange. "Let's take care of that little problem in your stomach before you sign those divorce papers." She stepped forward. Layla kicked out, her heel connecting with Beatrice's shin. Beatrice stumbled back, dropping the poker. It clattered to the floor, singing the expensive rug. "Hold her down!" Beatrice shrieked, her composure cracking. "Hold her legs!" The second guard moved in. Layla fought with the strength of a mother, scratching, biting, kicking, but they were too strong. They pinned her to the cold stone floor. Layla closed her eyes, praying to a god she wasn't sure was listening. "Lakota, please, if you ever loved me, come now." The heavy oak door at the top of the stairs shuddered. Beatrice paused. What was that? Boom. The door didn't just open. It exploded inward, splinters of wood flying like shrapnel. The basement air was thick, a suffocating mixture of dust, vintage wine, and the acrid, metallic tang of fear. Layla's cheek was pressed against the cold stone floor, the grit digging into her skin. Her arms were pinned painfully behind her back by the guard named Marco, his knee digging into her spine. She could see the orange glow of the gas burner from her vantage point on the ground. She could hear the hiss of the flame, and she could see Beatrice holding the brass fire poker. The tip was no longer brass. It was a dull, malevolent cherry red. "Hold her legs tighter," Beatrice commanded, her voice trembling with a manic sort of glee. "I want her to remember this. I want her to know that no matter what she carries in her womb, she will never be one of us." The second guard, a man Layla knew only as the enforcer, grabbed her ankles. Layla kicked, a primal, desperate thrashing, but his grip was like iron. "No!" Layla screamed, the sound tearing at her throat. "Please, it's Lakota's baby. You're killing your own grandchild." "I am killing a parasite," Beatrice spat. She took a step closer, the heat radiating from the metal rod. "Lakota will thank me later. He needs an heir from a pure bloodline, not this." Beatrice raised the poker. Layla squeezed her eyes shut, curling inward as much as she could to protect her stomach. She held her breath, waiting for the searing pain. She prayed to a god she hadn't spoken to in years. "Save him. Save the baby. Take me, but save the baby." The universe answered, but not with a prayer. Boom! The heavy oak door at the top of the stairs didn't just open. It imploded. The wood shattered inward with a force that shook the very foundation of the house, splinters raining down the staircase like deadly confetti. Thunder crashed outside, synchronized perfectly with the violence of the entry, as if the sky itself was heralding the arrival of a deity. Beatrice froze, the poker hovering inches from Layla's dress. The guards looked up, their eyes widening. Lakota stood at the top of the stairs. He was a silhouette against the lightning, flashing in the hallway behind him. He was soaked to the bone, his custom-tailored suit clinging to his frame, ruined by the storm. His black hair was plastered to his forehead, dripping water onto his shoulders, but it was his face that stopped the hearts of everyone in the room. It was a mask of absolute, unadulterated ruin. Lakota didn't rush down the stairs. He descended slowly, each step heavy, deliberate, and terrifying. With every footfall, the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. In his right hand, held loosely by his side, was a silver Sig Sauer P226. In his left hand, he held nothing, but his fist was clenched so tight the knuckles were the color of bone. He reached the bottom of the stairs and stopped. He took in the tableau before him in a single, analyzing second. He saw the shredded canvas of the painting, Layla's only connection to her dead parents, scattered across the floor like garbage. He saw the glowing red poker in his mother's hand. He saw his wife, the woman he had sworn to protect, pinned to the dirty floor like an animal, tears cutting tracks through the dust on her face. Lakota didn't scream. He didn't roar. When he looked at Marco, the guard holding Layla, his eyes were dead. They were the eyes of a shark, smelling blood in the water. "Let her go," Lakota whispered. The sound was softer than the rain, but it carried more weight than a scream. Marco, a man who had killed for the Cavallaro family for a decade, hesitated. He looked at Beatrice for an order. That hesitation was his death sentence. "I said," Lakota raised the gun, his movement a blur of speed, "let her go!" Marco reached for his own weapon with his free hand. Bang! The sound was deafening in the enclosed stone cellar. The shot was perfect, surgical. It caught Marco squarely in the center of his forehead. The guard didn't even have time to look surprised. He slumped over, dead weight, releasing Layla's arms. Layla scrambled backward, gasping, wiping Marco's blood from her cheek. She huddled against a wine rack, shaking so hard her teeth rattled. The second guard, the enforcer, released Layla's legs and scrambled to his feet, hands raised. Boss, wait! She told us!" Lakota didn't let him finish. He crossed the room in 2 long strides, ignoring the gun in his own hand. He didn't want to shoot this one. Shooting was too impersonal. Lakota grabbed the enforcer by the throat, lifting the 200-pound man off his feet and slamming him into the stone wall. The impact knocked bottles of vintage red wine off the shelves. They shattered on the floor, mixing with the blood, turning the ground into a crimson lake. "You put your hands on my wife," Lakota growled, his face inches from the guards. "You touched her, Mrs. Cavallaro." "She ordered—" The man choked, his face turning purple. "There is only one Cavallaro who gives orders in this house," Lakota snarled. He pistol-whipped the man across the temple, a sickening crack echoing off the walls. The guard's eyes rolled back in his head, and he crumpled to the floor, unconscious. Silence returned to the basement. Heavy, suffocating silence. Lakota stood in the center of the carnage, his chest heaving. He slowly turned his head. Beatrice was standing by the burner. She was trembling. The poker shook in her hand, the red glow beginning to fade to a dull gray. For the first time in Lakota's life, the Iron Matriarch looked small. She looked fragile. "Lakota," she stammered, taking a step back. "Lakota, listen to me. You have to understand, I did this for the family. For you." Lakota holstered his gun. He walked toward her. He didn't run. He stalked her, backing her into the corner of the room. "You tried to burn her," Lakota said. His voice was devoid of humanity. "You tried to burn my wife." "She is a liability!" Beatrice shrieked, her composure cracking completely. "She is weak! She traps you! Look at you, Lakota! You just killed one of your best men for her. She has made you soft." "Soft?" Lakota stopped inches from her. He towered over her, his shadow swallowing her whole. "You think this is soft?" "She is carrying a bastard!" Beatrice cried, pointing the cooling poker at Layla, who was still curled in a ball against the wine rack. "She tried to hide it. She is a whore, Lakota. I was doing you a favor. I was cleaning up your mess so you could marry Isabella, so we could be powerful again." Lakota looked down at his mother. He looked at the woman who had raised him, who had taught him how to tie a tie and how to load a gun. And in that moment, the final cord connecting them snapped. "You didn't do this for me," Lakota said, his voice dropping to a terrifyingly calm register. "You did this because you cannot stand that I found something I love more than your power." Beatrice's eyes widened. "Love? You love her?" "Yes," Lakota said. "I love her." Beatrice laughed, a harsh, jagged sound. "Love is for children, Lakota. Kings do not love. Kings rule." "Then I don't want to be a king," Lakota replied. "I want to be a father." Beatrice froze. The color drained from her face. "What?" "You heard her," Lakota said, his gaze shifting to Layla's stomach. "That isn't a bastard. That is my child, my blood. And you." He looked back at his mother with cold disgust. "You tried to kill the future of this family." I didn't know," Beatrice whispered, the poker clattering to the floor from her nerveless fingers. "Lakota, I didn't know it was yours. She didn't prove it. I thought—" "You thought you could play God," Lakota cut her off. He turned his back on her. It was the ultimate gesture of disrespect. To turn your back on an enemy was